Hey, entrepreneurs, it's time to get fired up back here on the MVP Cast, How to Become More, where we get you fired up so that you can become more of the MVP you already are in your life and your business. I'm your host, Josh Ruiz, alongside my man, Francois Lepien. And today's sponsored segment, this week's sponsored segment, I should say, is Francois' Super Class that's taking place next week, August 23rd. We'll have the link in the description below. Be sure to join us where you can understand and get clarity on the proven success formulas to take yourself to the next level. This week's special guest is Brooke Monaghan. I think I said that right.
Monaghan. Welcome.
Welcome, Brooke. My apologies on the name, but
worries.
welcome to the show. We appreciate you having us or being here with us.
I am so honored to be here. I really appreciate you sharing this space with me. Anytime that anyone invites me onto their platform that they work so hard on, I am just so grateful. So thanks for having me. My name is Brooke Monaghan. I am a consultant, a business mentor. I do some coaching here and there. I feel like it's such a mashup of things that I end up doing with my clients. So it's always hard for me to answer exactly what it is that I do. But yeah, I work with purpose-driven, impact-focused entrepreneurs on creating businesses that are actually sustainable for them. And aligned with the life and the business that they actually want and that drove them to start their business to begin with.
That's awesome. Do you find yourself working with a specific industry?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Do you find yourself working with a specific industry of entrepreneurs?
I work with entrepreneurs across the board, but most of them are definitely online service providers. I do work with a good number of coaches. I have some designers. I've got lots of yoga teachers actually and yoga therapists. So it's across the board, but I would say the thing that really is a constant with all of the people that I work with is they're not just driven by money, they're driven by making an impact and making a difference with the people that they work with. That's their core motivator. That's
awesome. That's awesome.
Yes.
And Francois always touches on that note too with every week that we have our guests. So go ahead, Francois, let us in on that special nugget.
Oh, it's basically everybody here would like to be heart-centered and service-driven.
That's
and
right.
That, as we focus on that and adding value again and again, then everybody is edified. I say that the tide rises and all the boats rise with the tide. So let's make that tide rise by making a difference in people's lives.
Absolutely. I'm with you. And if you can tie your business back to that, if that's the thing that really motivates you, if you can keep your eye on that ball, then the rest of it is going to come. Right. But I think like keeping yourself focused on what really motivates you is so important. So, yeah.
You touched on something that is so interesting because of the internet and the bombarding that we get of, oh, you need to do this, social media. Did you do your 50 outreach today? Did you do? And then we get so confused with it all that sometimes we just put the car in park and throw the keys in the ditch and we don't move no more because we're saying, hey, what's the use? I don't know. But now you said, hey, focus on what you want, and then everything else will come together. I just love this. Actually, it is more of a refreshing going,
yeah,
I can relax and be myself.
Yeah, yes. You can walk it back a little bit and remind yourself of why you're doing this. Remind yourself of who your person is. What do you want to help them with? When I see people get stuck with their marketing, especially one of the reframes that I always offer is like, okay, let's remind ourselves of who your person is. What are they thinking and feeling right now? And if they were sitting across the table from you, what would you say to them? Just say that thing, and then your marketing box is checked for the day. Like that's what people need to hear from you, right? They don't need this perfectly packaged, whatever it is that how we think we're supposed to show up. And I think that you're right. Like, we are bombarded with all the things that we're supposed to be doing, all of the things that we're told create a successful business. And usually that leads to one of two things. Either people try to do everything and end up really burnt out and inevitably end up stalling because they burn themselves out and they realize, you know what, this isn't why I started working for myself. I didn't want my life to look like this. This is why I left my corporate job, or this is why I decided to do this to begin with. Or they're so overwhelmed with all of the tasks that they think that they need to do that they just freeze because it's too much. And so I always say to people, whether you're the kind of person who is very action focused and is more prone to running yourself into the ground and overdoing it, or you're someone who has a hard time taking action, oftentimes I think that they're coming from the same place, which is this focus on trying to get things right and do everything rather than a focus on what's the impact that you're trying to create? Why are you doing this? Walk it back. What's one small step you can take toward that? And then like take a breath and we'll do it again, right? It's an ongoing thing. It's not a race to the finish. This is a long game. And so we need to set it up in a way that's sustainable. And one of the best ways we can do that is stay focused on what really motivates you instead of just trying to get it right.
Absolutely. And, you know, you touched on a couple of things there, Brooke. We say this each and every week. And that's, you know, as being an entrepreneur, it doesn't have to be by yourself, right? You know, there's so many different people out there that work in specific areas to help, you know, elaborate and grow your business and whatever specific piece, you know, you need help in or you're not the most adverse in, right? That's why I think it's about focusing on what you do best and getting resources to help you with those other things that are needed to evolve your business.
Yeah. You don't need to know everything. And you don't need to have all of the answers. You'll figure it out as you go and you connect with the people who can help you along the way, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and that's what, for me, that's what the whole entrepreneur journey is about, you know, is connecting and having resources and being able to collaborate. And I mean, you know, without that, you don't really have anything, right? I mean, a business is just a business, but it's the relationships and the network of people that you build and grow that really mean something.
Absolutely.
Golden nuggets that you just dropped. That was awesome. Marketing, making it simple. I always take notes. If you don't take notes, ladies and gentlemen, you're losing out because it's going to come one ear out the other. Take some notes so it can stick a little bit. And she says, here's your marketing in a nutshell. Only think of who they are. Who's your market? What are they feeling now? And then what would you say to them according to that feeling if they were sitting right in front of them? Thank you very much. Here is a fantastic crash course on marketing. We don't need to complicate it even more. Now all you have to do, the media is where you're going to actually spread that message, and that's it. Then you're off to the races.
And awesome. if I could make that even more concrete for people or more simple, I would say think of a person you actually know. Who's a person in your life who you know that you could help, right? You don't need to have an ideal customer avatar. I think that those are great. But I also think you can think of who's somebody who you've been connecting with on Instagram or on Facebook or LinkedIn. You've had a couple of conversations with them. You kind of know what they're going through. You know that you can help them. Think about that one person, just one person, right? You know what to say. You just need to be honest.
You mean to say I have 6 kids? So you mean to say that I can start teaching them through the lessons that I want them to learn? I can see, okay, so here's so-and-so. And so how about this? How about that? And that's an interesting one. You can just, all right. You can send them a link to it after. Oh, I did this little post here. Why don't you read it?
Yeah, I mean, I tell people all the time, like, write to the one person who, I mean, make sure that it's somebody who you actually want to drop into one of your services, right? Absolutely. Think about a person who you really want to help, but like, write them a little like love letter, you know, don't put their name at the top of it. Don't let them know that you're writing it directly to them, but act like you're writing it directly to them and then give that gift to your whole list. Because as I was listening to an interview with Judd Apatow, who's the very accomplished filmmaker, and he was talking about storytelling, and he was saying, you know, we think that we need to like have this big universal story, like a story that everyone can relate to. And actually, as you get more specific, the more universal it is, because we all have more similarities than we think. So if you get very specific, that's actually where it's going to hit more people. I don't consider myself like a marketing expert, by the way, but I do think that like, this is just one example of if you can stop trying to do things the quote right way and instead just come back into yourself, like literally into your body, and remind yourself of why you're doing this and walk it back and just come from a place of honesty and truth, you're going to get so much further. First of all, it's going to connect. But second of all, that's something you can keep doing over and over and over again. And like I said, I mean, entrepreneurship is not a one and done thing. You're going to have to keep doing this. So that's a system that I think people can always come back to over and over and over again. And as you do that, you build the skills that you need.
Yeah.
You're liberating me in so many ways today. Check this out. All the marketers are saying, no. I can help many people. No, become very, very specific. And you said, ladies and gentlemen, get ready to be freed right here, right now. The more specific you get, the more universal it becomes. Wow. I love it because we're all humans and we're all alike. Therefore, everybody will be able to identify with that part of a challenge. And also something that I've learned last week is a lot of people are too technical. I do this, it does this. Get away from the technical and go into the feelings that people have. And therefore, we're again touching on the universal because we're all alike. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
The emotional side. So, I mean, I was going to kind of lead into what gets you fired up. I feel like you kind of just shared with us. Is there anything else that you would kind of add to that on what gets you fired up as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I went to business school. I went to school for entrepreneurial management. I always knew I wanted to work for myself. I got into business school and I very quickly felt like I didn't belong there. I was like, felt like the message that I was getting, and sometimes this was very explicit and sometimes this was a little bit more coded, was if you're not driven by having I had a professor that used to talk about a Lexus producing job. It's not a real job if it's not a Lexus producing job. If you're not driven by that, if you're not driven by just results, if you're not driven by just generating cash, then like you're not going to make it here because that's what this is all about. And what I learned was when I left business school, I knew all of the things that I was supposed to do. I had all the technical information and I was so paralyzed. And it was actually unlearning that narrative that allowed me to move forward. So what fires me up now, like I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. I'm like, what fires me up now is letting people know, people who really want to work for themselves, who think they're not cut out for business for one reason or another, letting them know that the quicker they can break down that narrative and leave that narrative behind, the more open for success they're going to be. That's what's going to, like you were saying, Francois, like liberate them to move forward differently. And actually, if we did that, then we could change that status quo of business. Right? So many of us are disgusted by what we're seeing by some of these big businesses out there. And to that, I'm just like, I don't really spend much time worrying about that, to be honest. I'm more focused on, okay, well then let's start doing our own thing because we can be in business too, right? And we can challenge that status quo. And that comes from like embracing your weirdness and embracing the things that you think make you not cut out for it. And giving it a shot and learning that like you can do it too. And you don't need to play by the rules. And actually, like if you try to play by the rules, you're probably going to stay stuck. So.
Yeah. And to your point on that, Brooke, you know, school is oftentimes gives us a ton of information. But a lot of that is just information and we don't learn how to actually use it. Right. And I know Francois is probably going to elaborate on the knowing doing gap. And that's the position where, you know, what we have a ton of information that we know, but what we apply is a whole nother thing, right? And
totally.
that's the big disconnect for a lot of people.
Totally. Yeah. I mean,
you mentioned something being in school, sorry. And you said, I was in school and I was trapped, I was stuck. One of the things in school, you talk about the knowing doing gap, they teach us things. And then if we are able to repeat them, then we get a good mark, we graduate. But that doesn't mean we're going to do it. And that's the challenge. Then to actually put the stab in the heart, what the school does is, if you don't know it, don't do it because you're stupid not knowing it. So then when we got into entrepreneur and says, okay, try this. If it doesn't work, try that. Try this. If it doesn't work, try that. It says, whoa. Unless I'm sure that it works, I'm not going to do anything. And that's the stigma that school has given to all the people that want to transfer us from a job to business. And it says, I got to be right all the time. Otherwise, I shouldn't do anything because I'm going to be ridiculed, which is the total opposite of what it is to be in business. In business, we fail 7 times out of 10. That means that you get 30%. And so, if that 30% is going to make such an impact in so many people's lives. But now think about it. All school life, you say, if you have 30%, you're dumb. You're a loser. Okay, what? And so it's ingrained so much that they're doing that shift to say, hey, 30% of success is absolutely fantastic. How many times do you think I used to have, and there they are, Android, and now I have an iPhone because my 6 kids, they all have iPhones. It says, Dad, you need to have iPhones. And let me tell you, these guys are so clever of communicating. We just press a button. Everybody's got it. Like they make it easy, even for an older guy like me. But all this to be said, I am sure that before they were able to transition to those quick things, they must have made tons of mistakes. Tons of mistakes.
Yeah.
By the way, do you know why it's called WD-40? WD-40?
I don't.
It's WD stands for water displacement. That's what it's for. But the number 40 is because they tried the recipe 40 times and it failed.
Yeah.
That's why it's called WD-40. Like what? And we see this all the time. You didn't know. There was 39 mistakes out of this. And that's
Where'd you get that from?
Everybody's got WD-40s in their homes. Everybody. But they failed 39 times. What if they would have stopped when they failed 10 times, 15 times, 30 times? Now ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, how many times have you failed and decided to stop? You only fail if you stop moving forward. If you continue, you will find something that works. Keep on doing it. Get fired up. Become the best you can be and change other people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So segueing in here, Brooke, I mean, I don't know, maybe I missed it, but can you share with us how long you've been in business and then kind of maybe take us through some struggle points and how you overcame them?
Oh yeah, I would love to. I've been doing this for about 3 years. So I was in retail for a long time. I worked for some big retail brands and I was in management, and then I ended up leaving and going into the nonprofit world, and I did some project management stuff. And then I ended up through life circumstances, I was moving across the country, and I was like, you know what if I just don't look for a job? Now, I don't recommend to everyone that they do it that way. I think that like having something on the side and transitioning over works for some people. I'm the kind of person who I kind of need to back myself into a corner and give myself no other option. So I started off doing project management consulting, but it was always driven by what I said before about this kind of changing the narrative of what we think is like the right way to go about entrepreneurship. So I decided to start my podcast when I started my business and just talk about what it was actually like while I was doing it, instead of waiting years down the line to boil the story down, right? And give what looks like the linear trajectory. I was like, I'm just going to talk about it while I do it.
That's awesome.
And that was really hard in the beginning. I mean, really hard, because I had a skill set and what I thought I was allowed to be providing, which was my project management and operations consulting skill set. But then I had what I really wanted to be talking about, which was like, hey, like the story that we've been given about what you need to do in order to make it in business, I think is kind of wrong. And I think that actually, if we look at the stories of different people, we would see ourselves in that and realize that like we could be a little bit more true to ourselves and still succeed. And so there was this divide. And I think that probably the most challenging period of time for me was like those first 6 months of trying to figure out, okay, I'm creating this content, but the services that I offer are totally different. And how do I bridge that gap? And I was trying to get my content right. I was trying to talk about what I wanted to talk about, but then bridge the gap over to the services that I provided and then sell people on something else. And I ended up honestly just totally burning myself out. And I totally abandoned my entire online business for a while. Like I stopped creating content. I stopped trying to get new online clients. I started a dog walking side hustle to make ends meet. And I had my nonprofit client and like one other client. And I was like, I just need a break. And then COVID happened and I lost all of my consulting contracts and everyone was home and no one needed me to walk their dogs anymore. And I finally decided to be like, you know what? I'm going to offer what people keep coming to me for, which is a space for people who want to do business differently and a space for people to lean into what their genius really is in their business and challenge the way that they think they're supposed to go about business. And the moment that I decided to do that, it was like everyone who had been listening to my podcast had been waiting for me and I didn't realize it. And they were all like, yep, we're in. And so getting into alignment in that way of really leaning into and aligning my services with what I really was fired up about was the thing that, I'm not going to say it changed everything, because as you know, it's like this, right? It's not like one thing happens and then you're like, okay, and everything was different. But honestly, everything was different after that, because I realized that if I didn't resist what I wanted to do and try to do it right, if I didn't resist so hard, there were possibilities right in front of me that were available that I just couldn't even imagine. And so for the past, I guess, 2 years, maybe a little bit, maybe like 2.5 years, I've been working in this iteration of my business, which is really all about breaking the business rules and helping people navigate that journey, because it is a journey, let me tell you.
Question right here, just because you have unpacked so many things. You said that 19 minutes, 45 seconds is do not resist what feels right. And this is something that I'd like everybody to consider. We are at one point feeling right about doing something. This is it. And then the old paradigm starts to kick in. Who do you think you are? What do you think is going to make it happen? And then we start to and doubt ourselves, slam the brake, and back pedal, and back to doing nothing again or being confused. This is such a powerful thing. But then I'll ask you, and then I'm going to preach for my own choir here, is the fact that don't you think that in those times, that's when we need to have a coach or someone that knows how to navigate this water to make us go forward instead of relying on our own way of thinking that literally screws us up. We're putting sticks into our own spokes and we're stopping our machine from going forward. We are doing it. And unless we have outside help or people that come from another perspective to help us see it and then encourage us to make it the thing that do not resist, do what feels right. And then that would accelerate you. So my question is, do you think when you were stuck, if you would have seek advice from someone, you would have made it faster? And beware of the answer, because as you answer this, that's what people that are stuck right now, that's why they need all of us. We need to go to the other people.
Yeah. So I had advice and I had a coach and I had someone who was with me through that. But here's what I will say is that I was going through so much at the time. It wasn't just the business stuff. And so I always, like in my work that I do with my clients, I'm always trying to leave space for that as well, because it's not just the business growth that's happening. When you start a business, we all know this in this room, when you start a business, it is the fast track to personal development, and all kinds of stuff that you didn't want to address you are going to be confronted with them so fast. And so I was overcoming burnout from my corporate career. I was trying to figure out who I was. I was trying to figure out what I actually wanted. It takes a lot of space to do that. And so what I will say is, it's not like, and this is something I always remind people of, in those moments where you feel like you were stuck or like nothing was happening or you were off track. Like I talk about that time as like the time when I was burnt out and I abandoned everything. Stuff was still happening. I was going through my own process. So I think that, yes, to your point, Francois, there's two things I would say. The first thing is, at the very least, get people around you who reflect back to you that you can trust yourself. So if you have people who are around you who are constantly reflecting back to you, be careful. Oh, don't do that, because if you do that, it's going to, right? You need people around you who are willing to take risks based on what they really want for their life. You need people around you who recognize your brilliance and are going to remind you of your brilliance. You need people around you who trust you, who will remind you to trust what was right for you. But at the time when I abandoned things, and I'm putting this in quotes, at the time when I abandoned things, I needed that space. I needed to give myself a break. And so the second point of this that I would say is, your process is going to look different from everybody else's process. And it doesn't need to always be a linear trajectory. So trust that if you are doing for yourself what you need in that moment, like at the time, taking a break did seem right to me. And it didn't look right on paper, but I needed it at the time to take a little bit of space for myself, to get right with who I was and what I truly wanted and what I didn't want. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Reflecting. People don't think enough.
Yeah.
What was it? Dr. McFarland. He was a superintendent in Kentucky, and he was a great speaker. And he said, this is interesting. Most people don't think. 2% of the population think. 3% of the population think they think. And 95% of the population would rather die than think. And if you don't think this is true, think about the following. If you're about to change the trajectory of your business or thinking of something that says, okay, I need to sit down. And then you start to think about, okay, I'm hungry now. And then you stand up and you go. And then we'd rather do something. Oh, is there a good thing on Netflix right now that I can watch? And so we're pushing away from the sitting down and taking the stuff that's in here going all over the place, putting it on paper so we can finally reflect upon it. This is one of the hardest things to do for all of us. But once we start to do it, we realize that it's so liberating because it's no more nebulous and it's more orderly. And then we can concentrate on what's going on and maybe even seek advice from others that can help us on this or that point. Very powerful indeed.
Right.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love how you kind of gave the perspective of, pausing to take a break, right? Recentering yourself to know that, in business, you have to be able to give yourself. And sometimes that's about, taking a look at yourself with reflection, right? And thinking, hey, am I in the best position I can be? Am I in the best space I need to be able to provide the best service to my clients, which is ultimately going to flourish my business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I will say that like at that time, I mean, one of the biggest lessons that I learned in the beginning of my business, and this is to the point of like, of creating the business that you actually want, right? If you started working for yourself because you thought, well, I'm going to be able to take Fridays off whenever I want, and I'm going to be able to take a nap in the middle of the day, and I'm going to be able to, I'm not going to have to worry about making appointments in the middle of the week. At some point, you're going to have to actually do that. And let me tell you, sometimes that is the most uncomfortable thing that you can do, is slowing down and not filling every single second on your calendar. And that's something that I challenge a lot of my clients to do too, is to leave a little bit of breathing room, leave a little bit of space for doing things that are not necessarily productive. Because at the end of the day, if you are working 40 hours a week with a business that doesn't have the number of clients that you want, where are the clients going to go when they finally show up, right? You need to like create some space for things to come into. You need to create some space to experiment with things for that you don't know what the outcome is going to be. You need to create a little bit of that space for yourself. And I think without knowing it, I was doing that a little bit at the time. Granted, I overcorrected a little too far in the other direction. The pendulum swung a little further than I would have liked it to, but that's okay. That happens, right? You are going to respond to things in a way that later on you're going to look back on and go, oh, I wish I did things differently. But that's how you learn to do things differently, right? Now I know how to take a break earlier. I don't push it to the point where I'm going to need months to recover. Now I see the signs and I take a break sooner, and that means I can come back sooner, right? It's just like slowing down that or increasing the like turnaround time between when you see the signs and you actually like take that corrective action.
Yes, shorten that gap.
I like that.
When you see it, that's awesome. Yeah, I like that. This is so powerful to so many entrepreneurs. I like the nuggets that you're dropping, Brooke. You said, if you're working 40 hours a week right now and you have no clients, what are you going to do to serve those clients? And it's just like, duh, absolutely. So, and then you said creating space for them. One of the things that I love Einstein, he says everything is by law. And so the universe hates vacuum. Whenever there's a vacuum that's created, it needs to be filled. So might as well create vacuums for clients to fill that place. And if we're work, and it says where are the clients, it's because you're filling it up with all sorts of things that are not worthwhile, don't really move the needle. Let's not forget. And that 80-20 rule is so important. 80-20. 20% of what you do will do 80% of your results. Scrap 80% of what you do, focus on 20, and see your life be transformed so fast. And that's, as you said, Brooke, it's so counterproductive. But no, I need to do 40. I need to do 60 hours a week. Who said? Broke people said that. It's true. Absolutely. Yeah, we can enjoy life. Indeed. That's awesome. So what do you love most about what you do? And why?
Oh, what do I love most? Well, I mean, I love the moment I think that people who I work with realize there's nothing wrong with them. Because I think that in the online business development world, we are very very susceptible to this message that if things aren't working for you, it's probably because you're not doing it right. Or if you've done everything and it's still not working for you, it's probably because you're not cut out for it. And so a lot of people I find have gone through all kinds of programs. They've worked with different coaches. They've done all sorts of, they've tried everything, and they're really left feeling like there's something wrong with them. And I really love the moment in the process where they start to realize that the narrative is not accurate. And, it's not that there's something wrong with them. It's actually that there's something wrong with the story that we're telling about the way that things are supposed to look or should go. And when they start to realize that they can break those rules, bend the rules, do things differently, not do things that they hate just because they think that they're supposed to, when they start to get that and they start to trust themselves more than they trust this, like, just do things right and everything's going to work out, that is the moment that I'm getting goosebumps again talking about it. So yeah, I love that. And I think that part of that comes through my guidance. And I think that part of it comes from people just going through their own process. And so in a lot of a skill that I've really had to build in myself in the work that I do is, it's uncomfortable for me too, because I am susceptible to the same things as all of us and the same things that my clients are. I want to jump in and like help and fix and right. And I really needed to learn to sit back and let people go through what they're going to go through, because they're going to start pulling a thread and you don't know how that process is going to go for them. And so I've had to learn to let things go a little bit slowly sometimes, let people go through their own process, give them the guidance that they need when they need it. But, it's when people start to honor their own unique process that shift starts to happen. And I could it's what keeps me going. It happens with one client and it could keep me going for 6 months.
It's so amazing. One of the things that you mentioned, if we are going through what the books says or the teacher says or business says, what we're becoming is a copycat of it.
Right.
And so therefore, when you're following your own things, that means that you're going to start to create your own blue ocean. That's what's going to happen.
Right.
If you follow the etiquette, you're going into the red ocean. You're becoming like everybody else.
Right.
But if you're looking at, hey, I feel like doing it this way, that's an inkling of God, universe, whatever you want, that wants to manifest through you. And it wants to create something else. And if you create something else, guess what? It's nothing like the others are doing. So that quirkiness that you feel about it is actually genius that wants to come out.
Exactly.
So nurture it and make it happen.
You're speaking my language now. Because the thing is, right? Like, I work with people, and it sounds like you're here to speak to people who are motivated by creating a change. So if you're motivated by creating change, you can't do the same thing that's been done. What makes you uniquely suited to serve the people that you are here to serve is that you see a problem. You see what's not working. You see that a change needs to happen. You can't create change by perpetuating the same things that you're already seeing out there. And this is where the rubber meets the road, because the reality is that when you see that you want to create a change, and then you start to create the business that's going to fuel that so that you can support yourself while you do it, the first thing you're going to want to do is do what you're being told. The first thing you're going to want to do is do the research, follow the steps, follow the blueprint. And then what inevitably happens is at some point you're going to go a few steps down that road and you're going to realize, oh, I started doing this because I didn't want to do it this way. So you're going to have to start breaking some rules. And it is going to be uncomfortable. It is going to be so uncomfortable. You are not going to like it. You're going to have to confront all of your own stuff. And what I consider to be my job is to be like, that's normal. Yep, keep going. It's not a sign to stop. It's normal for it to be uncomfortable. It's normal that you're going to feel a little scared. Yeah. It's normal that you're going to be wondering, what's the result that's going to come of this? A lot of times people resist what they want to do because they don't have proof that it's going to work. And I'm like, yeah, that's what entrepreneurship is. It's not about having guaranteed results. If we had guaranteed results, then everyone would be doing it and it would be easy, but we don't have guaranteed results. Do it anyways, see what happens and iterate from there. To your point earlier, like, you're going to fail sometimes and you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You can handle it,
That's why we need others. What you just said there, you're going to be fine. When we're alone, like there's a bed bag of you, and I'm just thinking of when we're alone, we're just like, put the covers over our head and says, no, I don't want to see this day because I'm not doing it like others. That's good. That's the time to get out of bed and make it happen because it's different. But that's why I'm always saying we need help. Anyways, I need help. Yeah. That's why I got 3 coaches myself, because sometimes I get stuck and they help me get to the next level. And I see
Absolutely.
how valuable they create shortcuts for you.
Absolutely. Me too. We need each other. I mean, we met at a networking event, and I do those because of the fact that I'm like, you know what? I could be like throwing my stuff out on the internet into a void, or I could be showing up and forming actual relationships with people and meeting people and learning about what they're doing. And right. And also like I've got my coaches, I've got my therapist, like I'm all about getting the support. So I think that you're absolutely right. We need each other.
Yeah.
Cool.
And growth takes place outside your comfort zone, right?
Absolutely.
And one of the things that you said too that is so impactful that I think people don't realize is living from the inside out, right? Mm-hmm. Not living based on all of our outside sensories, like what we see, smell, hear, and touch, but actually, coming from within. Those faculties within are so powerful. And again, one of the things that aren't taught in school, right? Mm-hmm. You don't learn any of that. Right. Mm-hmm. You have to seek personal development and seek coaches and seek other resources to really understand the from the inside out. And you shared it beautifully. Thank you, Brooke.
Absolutely. Yeah. Learning to listen to yourself is like the key to me.
Yes. Let's have some fun. And Josh is going to come with our favorite question that we ask all our guests.
Yeah. Your superpower.
Okay.
Yes.
This is so funny because I've been asked this question before. I don't even know what I initially said. Probably something to do with like, can I just like generate clients for people who like, can I just like send clients to people who I really believe in? But if I'm going with I would love to be able to do that. But if I'm going with the real true spirit of the question.
From the inside out.
Maybe I was going to say, I wish that I could like teleport, like if it's an option to be able to just generate clients for people and send clients to people who I know are going to truly help them, then great. But if it needs to be more superhero-y, then I'm going with teleporting.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
That's a common one, isn't it?
COVID is terrible.
Yeah. I mean, and then in between clients, I could like sit at the ocean and get myself right, and that there would be no travel time. I could just be there, something like it would be the best.
Yeah. No, that is awesome.
I love it.
Awesome. That's kind of far from what you put, but it works.
Probably, yeah.
That's why I was saying you talked about snapping your fingers and giving people money is what you said.
Oh, I would love to be able to do that. I mean, I don't know what it would do for inflation. If there's something that could stop that from causing inflation, I don't want to be generating money and messing up the economy. But like, if I can send money to someone who's going to make a difference with it, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Your background comes from having nonprofit organizations. And that's where it comes from to say, hey, nonprofits can generate so much good by having more money coming to them. So I appreciate what you're saying with that sense. Because for me, interestingly enough, giving people money that they're not ready to receive is like the following. You go to the gym and you start with 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds. And then they says, I want more. And you give them 200 pounds. They fall back. They can't hold it. Because they're not ready to receive it. So, ladies and gentlemen, all the challenges that we're getting right now are us going to the gym to get stronger so we can actually handle the things and the blessings that we want in our lives. Unless you pay the price, you're not going to be able to hold the 200 pounds. It's going to crush you. Meaning, and that's what we hear of, I never buy lottery tickets, but people that win millions with the lottery, after a year, they're more broke than they were before because they're not ready to handle it. So when challenges come, embrace them. Says, this is actually making me stronger, so I'll be able to hold on to more and give more to people after. Yeah. That's powerful. Indeed.
Yeah. As my amazing coach, Lena West, once told me, money is an amplifier. So whatever you've got going on right now, if you throw more money at that, it's like throwing gasoline on it, So if it's a mess back there, clean it up before you start asking for more money, because it's just going to be a bigger mess.
That's awesome. I love that one.
Indeed.
Perfect.
Or we could throw some nitrous on it and really give it some boom, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So what's next? What do you got coming up, Brooke, that you want to share with the audience, or that people can, maybe benefit from your services and stuff?
Yeah, well, I actually just came out with a brand new training that people can definitely take if they're interested. It's going to walk you through the 5 growth phases that I watch entrepreneurs move through as they move from being what I call a rule follower through being a rule breaker and toward being a game changer. So it will help you identify what phase you're at, and based on what phase you're in, where should you focus your energy? Because like we were talked about before, you can't do it all, right? So what should you focus on? So if people want to take that training, they can go to bit.ly/no-business-rules.
Okay.
You can also just go to my website, which is brooke-monaghan.com. And actually next week, I am launching a bonus round of my signature program, Transcend Your Dichotomy Training Camp. So we spend 4 months just going into some of the tools and skills that will help you kind of reorganize the way that you approach your work so that you can do it in a way that is from the inside out, a bit more sustainable, aligned with the vision of what you really want to create. And we do a whole lot of growth mindset work, Francois, so you would love that as well. We're all about embracing the challenge and also resting in between.
That's awesome.
Cool. I love it.
People can find that on your website as well.
Yeah. If you take the training is probably the great place to start, because it will give you a sense of like, are we aligned, right? Would we be a great fit? And it will also allow you to really hit the ground running if you were to decide that training camp would be a great place for you. But it'll also just put you on my email list, and that's usually where I hang out. I really spend a lot less time on social media these days. So being on my email list is the best place to stay connected with me. And you can do that through that training or just on my website.
Okay. We're going to put all your links below this so people will have access to
Amazing.
the different things that you mentioned now. So that's awesome. We appreciate
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right on. Excellent.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it's been a pleasure. Any closing thoughts for us, Brooke?
Well, first of all, thank you so much again. It's really an honor to, like I said, when anyone allows me on their platform, I'm always just so grateful. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate the work that you're doing. And I would just say, be bold and break the rules. Like if you're thinking about something, you're like, if I could do whatever I wanted, I would do it this way, but I can't because it's not going to work. And this person said I couldn't. Try it. Just try it and see what happens. You might get the result you want. You might not get the result that you want, but either way, you're going to prove to yourself that you can survive. And there are actually other options that you might not be considering, and you might inspire somebody else to be able to do it their way too. So I think that's what creates change in a really meaningful way in business. And yeah, those are my closing thoughts, I guess.
Excellent.
Perfect. Break the rules. I love that. I am very much an anti-rule follower. So I align with you very much on that. So
yeah.
Appreciate that, Brooke. Awesome. And Francois, you have your super class next week. Let's share on that real quick before we close out.
Super class next week. The flaw with proven success formulas. Here you are buying this course that's supposed to, like, all the reviews on a 5-star, and then you buy the course and you crash and burn. Why does that happen? So the flaw with proven success formulas and what to do about it. This is something that is life transforming. It's less than an hour. It's value packed. And then also we can have some one-on-one to unpack the things that you're doing that may stop you on your way. So it's very powerful. I love doing it and I always get good feedback from it. Don't miss out on the fact that what Brooke, what you said right now, is that thing. Is here we are with those rules that we're supposed to follow, but we're not feeling in harmony with them. And so we back up. And then when we back up, we're not getting results. Let's resolve this once and for all. Awareness is the beginning of wisdom. And the more we get information on things that make us think of aha moments, what? And now when we keyword act on them, now we start to integrate them, because information to create transformation needs integration. And one of the best ways to integrate is to act on those hunches that you get. And don't just do it once. Act 5, 10 times on the same thing. You're going to develop more skills. Not that the task is becoming easier. It's because your ability to do it has increased, because the power is in you. Discover it and use it. Right on.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. So on behalf of myself, Brooke, and Francois, we appreciate you joining us. Be sure to leave us comments. You like it, you don't, what we can do better for you. And again, we'll see you next time on the MVP Cast, How to Become More Podcast. Thanks again. Farewell.
Thank you.
Thanks.